Oh, this was the house before demolished. Remember that one?
Evidently.
I know, you're looking.
I don't remember.
All right, good evening. The Design Review Board #1 public meeting of March 24th, 2011 is called to order. Please refrain from talking amongst yourselves and please turn off or put on vibrate all cell phones and pagers. If you need to talk, please leave the meeting room. Anyone who wishes to speak is asked to completely fill out one of the speaker cards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff as desired. You will be called to present a case or speak on a specific item at that point in time. Anyone who wishes to be re-noticed about a particular case is asked to completely fill out one of the postcards provided at the table by the front door and submit it to staff to receive notice of subsequent meetings. Design Review Board agendas are available by calling our Design Review Board hotline at 818-548-3171 or by visiting our website at www.ci.glendale.ca.us. A handout describing the procedures of the meeting, possible board decisions, and Design Review Board reconsideration and appeals is available at the table by the front door. Please note that all appeals must be filed within 15 calendar days of the Design Review Board decision date. The chairperson may reorder agenda items at his or her discretion. We'll now have roll call. Board member Aliano is not with us this evening. Board member Insua is actually running a little bit late. Board member Simonian. Present. Board member Yu.
Here.
And chairperson Palmer.
Here.
Report regarding posting of the agenda. The agenda for this meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall at or before 5 p.m. on March 17th, 2011. Oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. I do not have any oral communication cards. Chairperson Palmer? None?
I have no cards.
None? No cards. Okay, which brings us to the review calendar. There are no staff announcements at this time. There are also no consent calendar items. And we do have two cases on tonight's agenda. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Chairperson Palmer.
Okay. Welcome to Design Review Board 1, and the first item on the agenda is 1434 Andens Drive. Do you have the staff comments regarding that?
Yes.
Oh, it's you.
Okay, Chairperson Palmer, board members. The case before you this evening is located at 1434 Andenese Drive. It's in the Verdugo Woodlands neighborhood. I have photographs of the before pictures, and what you see is being proposed is a single-family home on a very small lot. It is to construct 1,335 square foot single-family home and a attached two-car garage on a 5,040 square foot lot currently zoned R1R. The existing property, you'll notice here it's a rather shaped lot. These previously had a Spanish-style, very small home that had significant alterations done to it. It was actually a code enforcement case. It had a very lengthy code enforcement case that went all the way to the city attorney's office. The property ended up changing hands, and the previous home was demolished. So what you have before you, in the photographs, is actually a vacant lot within a single-family home neighborhood. The property had to go through the public hearing officer's process for a conditional use permit because the lot width is less than 80 feet. A CUP is required for any lot that's less than 80 feet in width in the R1R zone. And it needed also a standards variance for the lot size. In the R1R zone, the minimum lot size is 7,500 square feet, in which case this is a 5,040 square foot lot. The standards variance and the conditional use permit were both granted by the zoning administrator last year, so they do have their entitlements to proceed forward with a new single-family home. Pointed out, it is in the Verdugo Woodlands West neighborhood. Proposal is a rather modest home. It's located of the lot. The majority of the project is driven by the zoning codes because it's such a small lot, and they are required to provide 10-foot interior setbacks, which they have. and an 18-foot wide driveway from the front, which again they are proposing. Essentially, it just squeezes the entire home into the center of the lot, and therefore it's basically limiting the site planning because of the zoning code standards for R1R construction development. Overall, the site planning for the project, again, it's an unusually small lot. It's driven by the zoning code. The location of the home, the driveway, and the garage, and site planning are constrained by the required setbacks, yet still provides somewhat of a buildable building footprint. This type of location in the center of lot is compatible with the adjacent surrounding developments and is pretty consistent with a front-facing garage towards the street. The second item listed in your report of merit is the mass and scale. Again, it's a modest one-story structure. The overall height is approximately 15 feet. Of the front entryway by having it capped off with a front entry piece is a shed roof that's projecting forward for the staggered two-car garages that are required. So that's the majority of what the street-facing elevation would look like. It appears to generally fit within the context of the neighborhood. The neighborhood itself has 1- and 2-story homes. So again, the overall mass and scale is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. However, we'd like to note that because of the small size of the lot, the building is pushed closer to the street than the majority of the other homes because, again, when you have a larger home, you are allowed to have greater setbacks. Last but not least, the architectural style. Pretty much in the somewhat Spanish influence. They have the wood corbel detailing. They have the S-tile roof, one piece. The elevation drawing frame along the windows with a wood sill underneath it. Little Spanish to the chimney and above the doorway. Few comments regarding some of these details in order to just really articulate the building better and also to be much more in line with the architectural style. Comments would include the windows, and this has been addressed. Forgive me, I'm going to put it here. Instead of having this type of with a wood sill and it was sort of flush with the wall, the architect designer is proposing to actually recess the windows by 2 inches and then have some sort of a sill underneath. So what they're going to do is they're going to return the window 2 inches, return the window, stucco that portion instead of having a trim, and then have the sill on the bottom. We also would grids be proposed on these windows, and that they either be casement or single or double hung. Majority of Spanish-style homes, they don't have sliders, or at least the authentic Spanish-style homes. So we're proposing to actually either have double hung or casement-style windows, and so that is as a recommended condition of approval. That in the front elevation here, you have a front door that has side lights and the door, and it's actually depicted in a white color. Staff is recommending that white color actually be either repainted or proposed as a darker color to match the overall trim and window sills. There was a suggestion made that the roof tile, instead of having an S-tile roof, that it actually be an actual 2-piece, either lightweight concrete or clay tile, but it actually be a 2-piece tile for the roof, and that the doors be eliminated. So, and that was just a suggestion, just to clarify, because you'll notice here it's more evident in this type of perspective drawing. It's a recessed type of element, but it really doesn't serve much of a function. So perhaps that could just overall design, since there are no other arches within the project. Also, just to note that there are individual style garage doors, and that's simply because in order to meet the required driveway length, they actually staggered it, and staff was really supportive of that staggering because it also cuts up the building plane along the front elevation while providing a little bit more visual interest as opposed to just having a flat two-car garage door at the front. Again, these are little minor tweaks. There was also discussion regarding the interplay of the roof forms on the two staggered garage doors, and in the axiometric drawing, that you have a gable that sort of ends into the shed roof, and then you have this type of hipped roof, above the entryway to sort of march it. So it's interesting roof forms. Spanish-style homes usually do have a varied array of roof forms, but we're not sure. There was a question of, does this really work in this particular instance? So that's for the board to decide. If the board is so inclined to approve this modest-style home, there were 6 conditions of approval that were suggested. One is to provide wood or hardy board frames and sills for all windows, or to recess the windows within a 2-inch stucco wood sills. Again, that has been proposed by the architect. And also to change those proposed slider windows to casement or single double hung with no grids. The second condition was to, again, paint the door a darker color and reconsider its overall design, perhaps. Third, to change the S-tile roof material to 2-piece mission tile. 4 would be to provide a better transition between the gable and the shed roofs on the west elevation. Here. 5 would be to clarify and revise the trellis at the entry to provide a more 3-dimensional element. Should have made note of that. You'll notice the center area that's depicted, and that's also shown here in this chart, where you actually have a wood trellis feature that's above the recessed planter. That's a little bit of a, not really confusing, but perhaps the architect can explain what he was trying to accomplish there, and what the board feels in terms of proceeding with that particular design element. And last but not least, to consider eliminating the token arches above the garage doors, or actually providing arched frames for the panel doors. With that, are there any questions regarding this particular project? No? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
I have 3 cards for this address, and I'm not sure if one is let's see, applicant.
Mr. Jankowski is the designer applicant.
Probably we should have him come up first then. You have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Oh, and forgive. Hello?
Lights not on.
Is the microphone on, Mr. Jankowski? I don't know if the microphone, if you don't mind speaking into it.
Okay,
There you go. Let's see. Hello? Okay, now it's on. All right, thank you very much. If you don't mind starting over again, we'll start your time over as well.
Okay. Name is John Jankowski, designer of the project, 4542 New York Avenue, La Crescenta. And initially, my client came to me, and he bought a piece of property, and the property had a sordid history. It's just unbelievable. And we had one of our choices was to return the house to the existing footprint, what existed before the other owner did the illegal additions. And that was a project that had a 1-car garage, and it was an 800-square-foot house. And we started doing the structural analysis of it, and the building department wanted us to also bring the existing foundation up to code and so forth and so on, and it just didn't pencil out. So we came back and created the maximum we could do on the lot is a very modest 1,335 square foot Spanish Revival. The neighborhood is very eclectic. We tried the Spanish Revival, but there's a little bit of everything in this neighborhood. Like eclectic is stretching the word. So we did the best we can. The first premise is we start with a 2-car garage in the front of the property. So we have a 20-foot wide garage and 10-foot side yards, and there isn't a whole lot that we can do with the front elevation. So we've tried to create a tower effect and so forth and so on. But this is a very modest endeavor. It's very modest. The trellis, you really don't see the trellis that I've created from the street. It's blocked out by a wing wall with, a wrought iron circular window there and so forth. And I just created some interest there. I was almost going to put some kind of seating, bench type of thing there, and I decided to keep it fairly simple, heavy rough sawn lumber up there, 4x12s and 4x6 corbels with bandsawed ends. So that was what I... Now, everything the staff has said, the six, we can work with staff with that. We're in compliance. I'm having trouble with that west elevation, that one roof, and I'm offhand, I'm not come up with a simple solution. I'd be glad to work with planning. I can create something there, but offhand I couldn't do it right here. So that's about it. I don't want to say too much. You viewed the project. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Anybody on the board have questions? I have one while they're thinking. The little window to the left of the garage, is that like a hole through that
It's
section?
like a hole.
It's a hole.
With wrought iron decoration across
Can't
there.
see through it.
Was the tower element taller before?
Yes, and it was taller, and we've got into, with staff, they made a recommendation that I bring it down no higher than the rest of the house. I would like to have the tower
How tall was it before, do you remember?
2 or 3 feet higher.
Than it is now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my reasoning was that we identify.
Which makes sense with that perspective, because that's how it's drawn there.
Yeah, but it was higher than that. But where it is now is fine. I say this is so modest, we're not going to make a real production out of it.
That's the only question that I have.
No more questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Yankowski? Was that you?
That was him.
That was him. Souderland? Ms. Souderland? You just state your name and address, please?
My name is Lindsay Soderlund, and I live at 1435 Opeechee Way, directly behind this house on Andinas. I'm just here to say, love the house, and I can't give enough compliments to these two new owners. And they promised a lot to my husband and me, and they came through with everything, because we were most affected when the other house was there. So I think this is great, and I think these guys are terrific. And that's all I wanted to really say. Thank you.
Myrna Stanley?
Good evening, Myrna Stanley, Verdugo Woodlands West Homeowners Association, and I think we're going to break into the Hallelujah chorus. We're thrilled, and I wish staff could have more applicants and property owners as these folks. It's wonderful. Our only comment was about the windows, and I understand that they offered to recess them and put wood sills, and that would be incredible. And we just very much supportive of this, and thank you, and thank staff for their work on it.
Thank you. We have no more cards, so I'm going to close this to the public session and open it up to the board. Would you like to go first, Mr. Simonian?
Sure, I'll start this off. I'd like to start off by just mentioning that there's a lot of positive pieces to this design. We've already talked about the pronounced entryway, which is always a nice gesture. And then the details such as the corbels and the wood sills and the recessed windows and the Spanish style and the modest size of the home and the way it just nestles into the site, and it's one story. So as far as the guidelines are concerned, I mean, you know, we've covered them all. It has all those positive attributes. I think there are still probably a dozen or so items that I'm going to bring up that I think could be worked out, massaged. But I'd like to again emphasize the positives of it, which is all those factors that I brought up is what we're looking for. We're looking for a traditional style in the Woodlands that is compatible. We're looking, if possible, to stay with the one story, and we're looking for those more traditional details. And so all that has been integrated, and we appreciate that. And there are items, though, that I think could certainly improve the design quite a bit. And they're subtle things, but at the same time, if we just take a second round of, focus, if we just focus on it, again, after our comments and working with staff, and I think it'll be just that much of a better design, and the owners will be happier and so forth, and the neighborhood will benefit from it. Some of what I'm going to mention, staff has already pointed out as some obvious things that we certainly could look at, and I think some of them I'm going to bring up as well, some other different issues. But the roof over the garage, that shed roof, and especially the west elevation, I think is an item that could benefit with some further design. As you're coming down the hill, that west elevation of the garage is going to be very visible. And so that shape that is indicated here is not a proper Spanish detail, and it's very reminiscent of 70s subdivision design. And so I think that area of the roof on the west side of the garage, along with the north elevation, certainly could benefit with working out the roof better. And perhaps we just continue to gable all the way forward, or perhaps we start to break up the massing of this front elevation and just literally break the roof off like so, which will certainly, help this area. But that needs to be worked out. We also have a chimney that I think is perhaps as tall because this entryway was taller at some point, but now this entryway has come down, so this seems a little bit out disproportionate to the modest scale of the home. We have this entryway, and of course staff talked about it, and I think this is odd. Again, it has the reminiscence of the 70s subdivisions and so forth, where you just kind of have that angled roof with this rough sawn lumber coming out, but it's just not eloquent, and it doesn't make any sense. And in fact, this elevation doesn't even depict it correctly, because if what is proposed is shown here, you'll just have these trellises that kind of stick out, which proportionally won't even match, the front door and so forth. So I believe this area could benefit from some work. The front doors and the garage doors don't match one another, different styles. The design in general could, I think, benefit from a richer palette of materials. It's just stucco at this point, so siding, I think horizontal siding or along with some maybe stone, will just create some variety. It's just very vanilla, and that neighborhood deserves better than that. And a couple of the windows are odd as well as far as the window size. There seems to be not as much of a rhythm as far as window sizes and so forth. Now, again, all these I think could be addressed fairly quickly by the applicant and staff, because once we relook and redesign that roof over that entry of the garage, all of a sudden, some major differences will occur. There's an opportunity where if we're creating this special entry where it's just all concrete, I mean, why not have some planters here? Why not have more of a traditional hacienda type of a courtyard that creates a nice entryway? Maybe a fountain along that wall. So when people are driving up the street, they see that, more of a traditional Spanish style. So again, minor things, but I think holistically will make an amazing difference on this modest home. So those are kind of my thoughts, and of course, would love to hear the rest of the board and see where we end up with this.
To you?
Haven't had the privilege to see the previous project 2 years back. I think, we don't need to say any more about that. We've sort of turned the page, we moved on, and we're talking about a new project now, and I appreciate that. Thank you for the design that you brought to us. I think you're right, it is a very sort of simple design, and, we're proceeding with the house with details that, you wanted to show sort of in the Spanish realm. I just have 2 or 3 things that I think would improve the project. I totally concur with you. The roof, the gable, the simple gable that you have in the back, sort of encompassing most of the house, and then you get to the front and it becomes like the shed that, and it is foreign, and because it is interacting with the foreign roof, you get these awkward spaces like on the west side, on the east side, it just doesn't match. And I think it is a much better detail on the back side, on the south part, your south elevation that shows your simple gable, and then you have another simple gable that's sort of split off of that one. And I think that is the direction that you should explore for your garage. I think that makes a lot more sense. Even if it means that you take the garage portion, even lift it up a little bit off of that, it makes a lot more sense that way. And that's also going to clean up your detail as you come into the tower as well, as you're connecting to that. Your tower, I think, could be a little bit taller, maybe a foot or two like you were talking about, and I'd be okay with that. But here it looks dwarfed because of the shed, and it's not because of the fact that it's too low, After you maybe do the gable coming back in, it would probably only need to go up maybe 6 or 12 inches to be able to clear it, because then you're looking at the lower end of the gable and not the highest part of your shed colliding with the tower there. I'd also like to see the tower, even if it's 6 inches or 4 inches, be sort of separated out, bumped out on the side to kind of create its own tower element, and not sort of have this nice tower face and you turn the corner and it just becomes part of the elevation as it goes back. I'd like to see it defined as you turn the corner. The little space, like you were talking about when you did the rendering where you put the bench in that little space, I think a bench is much nicer, because I think with the tower there and the sun, it's going to be east to west sun, and it's never going to see the sunlight, that little crevice, and it's just going to be dirt just sitting there, and I think a bench makes sense. Maybe, leave it up to you, but you create the whole front area so actually people can sit out there and do as a front porch, the idea of a front porch. But besides that, I think the rest of it is covered by staff's recommendations, and much improved, and I think we're almost there. But just those few things. Thank you.
I agree with the other comments and the fact that the chimney does look a little larger than it probably has to be. I definitely think the garage doors and the entry need to match more. It looks too foreign, like two foreign pieces together. I want to make sure that when this does get approved, the plans we have state that the windows are vinyl, and the materials board states wood-clad fiberglass. So we just want to make that clarification. I think in looking at the landscape plan that, as Mr. Simonian brought up, you could have a little more interest. The hardscape and the planting of the area are more of a contemporary design as opposed to complementing the Spanish style. So maybe look at the materials, and you've got a repetition of a few kinds of plants. Maybe give some more accent. Look up some plant material that would, like agaves and things that would go more with the Spanish style. And I'd like to see that landscape plan continued around the building, because you do have some doors on the sides and the rear, and we're not just interested in what's in the front. So I'd like to see that plan continued around. I think that concludes my comments. Other questions?
Any other questions for staff or the applicant? Would you like me to read back into the record some of the conditions I heard? I'm actually going to start with the 6 that staff actually suggested initially, and then work our way down from the comments that I've heard. The first one was to provide wood or hardy frame sills for all windows, or recess the windows within a 2-inch stucco frame with wood sills. We're just going to go ahead and eliminate that, because the applicant has made his intentions clear to provide the recessed windows, but that also change the proposed slider windows to casement or single hung with no grids. So is that acceptable by the board?
Yes.
The next one was to paint the front door entryway a darker brown color, not white, and reconsider its overall design. And what I'll do is I'll say reconsider its overall design to match the proposed garage doors, or
And windows. I mean, they should all kind of match.
okay. Okay. The third comment was to change the S-tile roof material to 2-piece mission tile. Board, I see
Yes.
some nods, yes.
That's pretty consistent, yeah.
The fourth comment was to provide a better transition between the gable and shed roofs on the west elevation. From what I hear, the board would like to have the applicant consider bringing the gable completely forward, or essentially to redesign that shed roof.
Correct.
The fifth comment was to clarify and revise the trellis at the entry to provide a more three-dimensional element. From what I heard, the board would like the actual planter area converted to a bench area, like more of a seating area, more of an entryway courtyard area.
Right.
Is that
I
correct?
think the courtyard theme
Yeah.
would be nice to integrate with landscaping and the entry, and maybe some landscape features such as fountains and so forth. But it's so dry right now.
Even if it wasn't a bench, you could do a fountain on the wall or something.
Correct.
But if the roof line gets changed from the shed to the gable, there's probably no room for
You're
a
right.
trellis anyway.
Trellis suite.
So it needs to be looked at holistically.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a trellis, I guess. Yeah, we'll leave it up to them.
So I'll just say to reevaluate the area, to be
Sounds
consistent
good.
with what is being proposed. Okay. The sixth comment that staff had in the staff report was to consider eliminating the token arches above the garage doors, or actually providing arched frames for the panel doors.
Arches are nice, I guess, for what they're doing, but you're right, they're not used anywhere else. But if there are going to be arches, they should be true arches and not have a false back to it, like you said.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
So keep that condition?
Yeah.
Okay.
They should be consistent.
Consistent. Okay. From there, the springboard. When I heard that and again, the shed roof over the garage and the west elevation are going to be changing because of the board's previous comments, there was a comment made that, is the chimney too tall? Is it in proportion to the rest of the home?
I think that's a code thing, though. It depends on the
It might
slope.
be.
It might change when the roof's changed, too.
Okay, so
They could turn it 90 degrees so you don't see the wider portion of the chimney. I mean, it's a flue coming up no
Look at
matter
the
which way
chimney.
it comes out.
Yeah, that's right,
Look at the-
consider
I'll say
it,
reconsider the height and orientation of the chimney, all right?
to see if you could benefit by lowering its height.
Okay. There was quite a bit of discussion regarding the front entry piece, that entryway, whether the actual roof should be higher or raised, or was there an intention to actually redesign that completely?
Well,
okay with the tower piece.
Yeah, no, the tower piece, I think, is quite nice, and it works with the design, and it's a focal point of it, so I think by changing the tower piece, you would have to really start from scratch, and that's not the intent. As Mr. Yu pointed out, we have this flat wall along here,
Right.
and then we have this tower, so if it just pops out, or pops in, or just something, I'll go away from that, facade look into a real element. So
Code issue?
Actually,
So the wording that I have for that, let's maybe see if this wording might fit. The tower element is dwarfed by the shed. Maybe it can go up a little bit once the roof is redesigned. There should be a planar differentiation at the east elevation between the tower and the rest of the house.
That's correct.
Well said.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm scrambling to write all this down. All right.
And while Vilya is scrambling, I'll just reread some of the wording that she's already covered so that we have a clarity of direction. For the chimney is now disproportionate. Consider revising the chimney to lower the height and or reorient. And we had a comment about there being no rhythm or logic to the windows and sizes. So I would say, if the board agrees, reconsider the window pattern and sizes on both east and west elevations.
And that could, dovetail with condition number 1, which is changing the window types from to casement and hung, because once that occurs, there's certain proportionality that goes with hung windows and casements and so forth.
We'll tack that on as a multiple
Right.
condition of number
Correct.
1.
Correct.
Multiple piece, that is. Doors. There was a comment made by Board Member Simonian regarding the materials of, essentially that it's a stucco home, and should there be an introduction of either siding or stone?
I think stone is more appropriate, being the Spanish style, but some variation. We have, I don't know, do we want to go, the applicant could consider a slew of things. It's just to create some variety, and I think once you start working with the door material of the front door and the garage door, and once you start getting away from the rough cut trellis, and then you're getting into a more refined building. So your corbels are going to be more finished, and your sills are going to be a finer finish of wood, and then maybe you might want to consider smooth stucco, which will certainly create more sophistication. And then you might want to, you've already starting out with putting some nice ceramic tile as emblems over the door. You might want to continue that Spanish motif, that's right, by just bordering the doorway or the entryway with tile. Really make it a special Spanish home by integrating some different material.
Well, that could go along with putting the emphasis on the tower, the planar difference, by using a different material.
Sure.
So, but another suggestion might be to move that chimney out to the outer wall. That'll reduce the height of your chimney on the top. So.
Correct, it'll be
'Cause you're at the
farther away
highest
from the
point
ridge.
yeah, so-
Yeah, that's right.
But that's
So consider including additional materials and details, potentially an additional material at the tower element.
purely suggestion. Yeah.
So those are, so would it be a condition to include additional materials or a consideration?
Make it a consideration,
I'm
because
okay with
depending on the design,
consideration.
it might want to stay more
It's
simple.
a small.
It's a small, modest home, so these are things that could really improve it.
And-
It's up to you and your budget to see what you could work out.
And then the chimney, consider moving the chimney out and potentially differentiating that material as well.
Right.
so that,
The wall will eliminate the height of the...
right.
On the east side, then you'll have that variety.
Right.
Especially if it's another material.
Right, and you're allowed to do that within the setback, which is great, too.
So we'll include that as a consideration with the other chimney condition that I read.
So you're not taking up already square footage that's in the house, you're creating, pushing it out, and you're allowed to do it within the setback, so...
Board member, or Chairperson Palmer, I'm not sure if you, I believe the applicant has a question or a comment.
maybe
I'm
we
not sure if
should-
you'd like to reopen the hearing at
Well,
this point in
well,
time.
no,
or-
we have some more conditions to read
I
through.
do, but I think it's in regards to
Let's let him
the chimney portion.
reopen. Could you come up and state your name and address again, please?
John Yankowski, 4542 Newark Avenue, La Crescenta. I think I'd like to eliminate the chimney, the fireplace. We really, it was kind of moot if we were going to do it. And then I'm into the Spanish Revival thing, so it's hard to just, tack on siding or coronado stone. I'd like to instead do some tile work, maybe in that recess, like say maybe a fountain thing, and do it with tile work, do some tile around my entry. And I know we have troubles with walls in the front yard, but I'd love to put a 3 or 4 foot high wall and create a real courtyard. Maybe even go through a little wrought iron gate, and
Have at it.
not at the front property line, but
Because I think your front setback is 15 feet.
yeah.
As long as you go past that, you could certainly have a,
But I'd like to do a little 3 foot high stucco wall and really do a courtyard. And I can emphasize the tower. Maybe I can just move my living room back 1 foot, and then that would be the jog, and the tower would actually be an element. I can't come out because I've got a 10-foot side yard, but I could take a foot out of the living room and make the tower out and read. And I can work with the gable roof. I always have problems with doing a gable roof with what happens above the plate line. that doing some kind of detailing there to work that out. But I can deal with the roof. Yeah. Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Sorry about that. I thought that there was a comment just regarding the chimney, and that's why there are additional conditions. No, it's quite all right. So,
But we'll continue with the conditions.
okay, with the conditions. Chairperson Palmer made a comment regarding the landscaping, and that to have a little bit more interest, more accent plants that go with the Spanish style, such as the agave, and then to actually wrap the landscaping around the building, not just in the front yard area. All the other comments, essentially, there was, Board Member Yu said the gable roof into a shed, it's a foreign configuration, which has been addressed. Tower could be a little bit taller. Tower can also be bumped out a little bit with, again, those are addressed with the planar issue that we're doing. The comments also in regards to that bench in the recess planter area, I think that there is consensus in regards to perhaps taking a look more in that courtyard area right in front of the tower, of the entry piece. And yes, they do have enough setback in that area to actually have either a low bench wall or wrought iron fencing area to actually have some either a fountain element or additional landscaping in that area. So that would be acceptable in terms of zoning code requirements. That's all that I have jotted down. Stephanie, do you have anything else that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think there were some very specific comments made about the roof design and also by the applicant, so I just wanted to review those. I think what I have is eliminate the shed roof at the garage and redesign, strongly consider the use of a gable roof more similarly to how the roof resolves at the back of the house. Okay? And the applicant just brought up a question for the board if a wall or a fence can be added in front of the entry area to create more of a courtyard feeling that's a little different than what you've discussed or seen. If it seems like it is allowed by code, is that something we can include in the conditions that a wall or a fenced area at that entry could also be included to enhance the entry?
I think it'd be his choice, basically.
But we don't want to go too tall with a fence. I mean, a wall of 3 foot, let's say, that creates a quaint entryway with that fountain we were talking about on that entry wall with some ornate tile work, I think will really create a pleasant environment to drive up that street. So when you're driving up, you'll just see that, and it's very nice. So, but I wouldn't go with like a 6-foot fence or anything like that.
Okay, so
Front of it.
in
Softens it.
potential to enhance the entry with additional details, fountains, a low wall, maximum of 3-foot height with planting in front of it could be used, and that area in front of the entry should be redesigned to include more detail.
Correct. I mean, we don't, without getting too much into the design, but for example, right now, as it stands, you're parking 2 cars, and then, pedestrians would walk up the driveway and then turn left and go into the home. Well, you have an opportunity. You could create with these walls and with this landscaping, as Ms. Palmer is pointing out, a nice, quaint entryway, a path, so you don't have to go by 2 parked cars, to enter this great home. And you come up this path and you enter this nice courtyard and you go in. So these are just things to consider.
And I wanted to add to that, you have a brick driveway and then you have a concrete entry. You might want to incorporate, to make it look larger and more compatible, the materials in the driveway use the same materials in the walkway so that it all looks like one flowing unit.
And was there another comment about the hardscape and the orientation of the pavers?
I think once he works the courtyard effect and the walkway into it, I think that would be a moot point.
Okay, so we'll just integrate the hardscape in the driveway with the new entry design and landscape all around the house.
Okay.
If you think we've captured all of that,
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the project with those conditions.
Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Simonian, a second by Board Member Yu. Board Member Yu?
Yes.
Board Member Simonian?
Yes.
Chairperson Palmer?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, at least to brag. It's all these.
Oh, more paperwork, huh?
Pardon? Oh, yes, if you don't mind, I'll pick it up right now. Thank you. Chairperson Palmer, would you like to proceed with the next case?
We will, if I can find my sheet.
Oh,
here.
sorry.
I was looking for the address. Thank you. Second submittal is 3624 Roselawn Avenue, and Brad will present this.
Thank you. Chairperson Palmer, board members, as mentioned, this is a new project located at 3624 Roselawn Avenue, case number 1-PDR 2010-055A. The proposal is to expand an existing family room by adding 7 square feet and construct a new 749 square foot second-story addition to an existing single-story house. Existing garage is attached and considered a one-car garage. Subject lot is 6,937 square foot interior lot. The existing house design reflects a bungalow architectural style with its use of smooth stucco, composition shingle roof, and hardy plank siding under the roof peak. The applicant is proposing to replace all existing windows with vinyl. All the proposed windows that are visible from the street will be double hung. A new deck will be accessed off the proposed study at the rear of the new second story. This is a first-time submittal as a final review. 2 variance requests were approved on December 30th, 2009. The first request was to allow the house to maintain an existing nonconforming interior setback of 1 foot 6 inches instead of the code required 5 feet, due to the house exceeding 20 feet in height. The second was to allow the addition without increasing the existing nonconforming one-car garage. Both requests were approved by the hearing officer. The subject property is zoned R1, located in a low-density residential zone, floor area District 2. The site is level, and there are no oak, bay, or sycamore trees on the property. There are no proposed floor area additions to the front of the house. The applicant has placed the massing of the new second story approximately 7 feet back from the first floor. Combination of gable and shed roofs are used to break up the massing on the second floor. The addition is a symmetrical configuration proposed central to the existing footprint. The addition appears appropriately configured and in keeping with the existing building. The applicant is proposing to use a south-facing shed roof with solar panels. Proposal's 2-story mass and scale are sensitively designed and fits with existing homes in the neighborhood. As mentioned before, stucco is the primary exterior finish. Horizontal siding will be placed under one of the roof peaks on the north and south elevations. The window arrangements, sizes, and proportions appear to be consistent with the selected architectural style. Conditions have been added requiring additional drawings for some of the details to ensure that the integrity of the construction will reflect the quality of the design. The applicant is replacing the garage door, and in addition, a wood trellis is being proposed above the garage door. The Planning Department believes that the bungalow design would be harmonious with the overall character and design of homes in the immediate neighborhood. Overall, the new house appears to be consistent with the design guidelines intent for site planning, mass and scale, and design. The Planning Department recommends final project approval with the following 2 conditions. The first is to submit construction details to be clearly indicated on the plans for staff's review, including trellis and fascia boards, stucco applications, smooth and machine-applied finishes, exterior doors, particularly the entry door, and railings to ensure the construction will be consistent with the plans submitted and approved by the board. Second, to provide a landscape plan prepared by a licensed landscape architect for staff's review. All plants shall be selected from the bewaterwise.com plant list, or Glendale Water and Power Department shall approve those plants not on the list. This concludes my presentation, and if the board has any questions.
Any questions for staff?
I have a question.
Okay.
You mentioned that there's going to be solar panels? Or
The
did
applicant
I-
is interested in doing that. I believe the architect will be able to address more specifics on that.
All right, about the location and so forth.
No other questions?
No other questions?
I have 2 speaker cards here. Franco, would you like to speak first?
Good evening, Chairperson Palmer and board members. My name is Franco Noravian. I'm the architect. My address is at 409 West Broadway, Glendale, California, 91204. This is a modest second-story addition. It's just a master bedroom on the second floor. We're keeping the existing style and trying to enhance it by adding more architectural details. We have, like Brad said, the addition is in the center of the building, so we have roof line from all sides to try to be more sensitive to some of the one-story homes that are in the area. And Board Member Simonian asked a question about the solar panels. The reason why the side dormers, if you can call it that, the pop-outs on the sides, have a shed roof is because on the south side, we are interested in putting solar panels. So we did it on the north side to be symmetrical. But that will be on the roof plan. If you like, I can approach, but it's pretty obvious where they would go. It's on the south side. Other than that, I don't have any other comments. And as far as the landscaping, they've already started. My client was telling me they've already started. They've redone half of their front lawn with water-wise landscaping or drought-tolerant landscaping, and they're planning to do the rest as well. So that's not a problem.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Herbert?
Good evening. My name is Peter Hebert.
Sorry.
Address is 3624 Roselawn. The owner of the house. Regarding the solar panels, the intention is to put them on the south side. There wasn't enough south-facing roof with a cross gable roof configuration to provide solar panels that would meet the energy needs for the house. So the shed roof was agreed to with the staff as something that would meet the design requirements. I'm really just here to answer any questions that you might have or have anything else to say.
Questions? Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Close it to public hearing, and we'll go to Mr. Yu.
Nothing specific. I think that the addition is in good keeping with the existing. It definitely does improve it with the details that he's proposing. I like that the second-story massing of it is towards the back of the property, and you kind of get a glimpse of it in the front. I don't necessarily think that they need to be symmetrical in that sense because the front of the house is not because of the garage and those kinds of things. But I mean, if you prefer to do it that way, that's fine. I think that's okay. The rear of it is pretty bulky. I was trying to figure out what part of it was existing and what part is new, and it's starting to make sense. You have the little courtyard that used to be there that was covered up at a later point, and then so that's where the massing of it is going to be. I think all in all, it makes sense. There's enough variation on the side elevations, so I don't really have anything against any of the moves that you've made. I think they were good. Material selection and colors, I mean, they're pretty modest as well. I'm okay with the project as is.
Mr. Simonian?
I agree. It's a job well done. I think it's a great example of a period design. It's refreshing because we get contemporary homes, or we get more of the traditional styles with a contemporary flair. That might be, I guess, the kind of designs that we're used to getting. But this really goes back and integrates some of the more traditional details into the design, and we have that pronounced entryway with the double columns on either side, and then we have some nice woodworking details on top of the columns that connect it to the eaves. We have the north and south elevation that has a ton of articulation in there. Even the rear is more of a traditional porch with the lighter guardrails, and it's vertical guardrails, and then two corner columns at the rear of the porch as well. So there's a certain design element that's been integrated throughout the home, and I appreciate that, and the board appreciates that. So I think it's a job well done. I don't have an issue with the windows that are proposed as well being vinyl, because there's been a strong emphasis on the quality of the window surrounds and the window sills and so forth as depicted in this package. And I agree with staff in that some further details along the way would be great to make sure what's depicted here gets built, because we have just layering of material around the windows and the sills and the jambs, and as I mentioned, the column caps and the column bases. As one looks at this design, it has a sense of a Victorian era to it, so it'd be very nice to keep those details, and that's one way staff could ensure that it's integrated, is asking for those details up front. All in all, I think it's well designed and well illustrated, and wish you guys a lot of luck.
I too think it's a good design, and I appreciate the fact that the front portion doesn't look like a second story, and it gives it a more horizontal look. I like the location of the different materials, the colors. I think the only comment I have is that I appreciate that you're trying to do drought-tolerant landscaping, but I think we need a plan that rather than, I did look at the house today, and rather than a lot of mix and match, there needs to be some more uniformity, and maybe carrying that around would enhance the house itself. So I would like to plan. I think that's the only comments I have. Any other questions, or you want to read back if any of our conditions? Addition, Stefan. Oh, I'm sorry, Brad.
Basically, the conditions that you mentioned were ones that staff had already included. Is that what the board would like to go forward with?
Yeah. Would you mind reading them into the record for those who don't have them in front of?
The first condition was to submit construction details to be clearly indicated on the plans for staff's review, including trellis and fascia boards, stucco applications, smooth and machine-applied finishes, exterior doors, particularly the entry door, and railings to ensure the construction will be consistent with the plan submitted and approved by the board. Second, to provide a landscape plan prepared by a licensed landscape architect for staff's review. All plans shall be selected from the bewaterwise.com plant list, or the Glendale Water and Power Department shall approve those plants not on the list.
I would just add to that first condition, column bases and column cap details as well, as indicated on the elevations.
This is more for myself, but is the licensed landscape architect portion, is that a requirement, or because
It's only required if you require it.
It was always either professionally done or a licensed landscape architect, right? Does that?
Many times we required it with a new house, but I don't have a problem if it's professionally done.
Yeah, I think we should give that option
Yeah.
as well too.
Okay, we'll strike
Emphasize
that.
professionally.
Yeah, professionally
Executed.
executed, or done by a landscape professional, not necessarily a landscape architect.
That's fine. Do we have
Should I make a motion?
Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve with the what was it? The conditions, the two conditions that we mentioned.
I second it.
This will be roll call. Mr. Yu?
Yes.
Mr. Simonian?
Yes.
Chairperson Palmer?
Yes.
Motion carries on a 3-0 vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have minutes.
Yes, we do. Minutes from 2000.
I don't have anything.
I don't have any problems.
Did you have any problems with the minutes?
No.
Minutes from March.
I make a motion to read the minutes.
Second it?
Motion by Board Member Simonian, Board Member
Yes.
Smite,
Yes.
Chairperson Paul.
Yes.
Motion to.
Have anything else?
Yeah, I did want to mention that the next time we meet, we will include a discussion item on the agenda for the board to help staff understand when it would be a fabulous thing to have landscape plans submitted with the actual design. Very often we hear from the board that additions such like the one you saw in Roselawn could really benefit by a landscape plan, but our code doesn't require it. So we would like to have that discussion, so I wanted to mention that so you could think about that, and that would help staff and help the applicants with a level of predictability.
30.
Thank you.
We move that we
I make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Am I supposed to sign these here?